I'm typing in power washing near me. And there's 275 reviews, the whole digital footprint. They see Facebook, they see YouTube, they see all these things. They read a few reviews, they call you, you answer the phone. I don't care if you're on the ladder, on the roof, whatever it is, answer that phone. Because if you don't, they're going to call me and I'm going to answer the phone and then it's my client. And we have the MoFlow on the truck this year. And that thing is absolutely ridiculous. I love that machine. I'm totally addicted to it.
Okay, so I've got Joe Deery with me today. Not only is he a great guy, but he has built a successful pressure washing business, and he shares a ton of valuable insights as well as a vast amount of knowledge on his YouTube channel, Powerful Improvements. And I'm going to pick his brain today about what's worked, what hasn't, and how he is thinking about the growth of his business. And if you stick around until the end, I have got a question for Joe that I think is going to help anyone in this business. And we're actually giving away a package that's worth about $5,000 this month.
Nice.
We're giving away a full year of the elite tier of QuoteIQ, which has got InstaQuote, InstaSchedule, route optimization, a lot of great features. In fact, all of the features in QuoteIQ. We're also giving away a year of our virtual call assistant, which is AI driven. It's absolutely phenomenal. It answers every single call, does a transcription, sends it to you, notifies you. So if you don't answer the phone, somebody is at least having that contact point. And then we're giving away 5 QIQ ads, which a lot of guys do exactly what you with that organic reach. They post them in the Facebook groups. There's over 20 services there. But Joe, welcome to the channel. And I know that a lot of people watching right now, they know you. But for those of you who don't, can you take a minute and tell us how long you've been in business, a little bit about the business, and how you got started?
Deery, my company's Powerful Improvements. I'm in Putnam, Connecticut, which is the northeast corner of Connecticut. I've been in business. This is my 7th season, my 6th full-time season. We've been growing every year. We started with homeowner equipment, upgraded every year, and you can see the setup we got out back now. You guys that follow my channel know what we're running, but it's been a great evolution for me. We started a YouTube channel 6 years ago to try to track that evolution. So if you go back through my channel, you can see the early days, which can be very relevant for guys that are starting out in the business. You can see me with the smaller machines and the struggles that we had growing to what we have now. So, you know, there's maybe some value on my YouTube channel, but that's where we're at.
I love it. And there is a tremendous amount of value and just documenting your journey. You're sharing the journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs, and, you know, keeping it real. And I think that's why your channel has grown and people, you know, they're drawn to you because of that authenticity. So Joe, tell me, what are some of the main services that your customers are calling you for on a daily basis?
So, you know, when I first got into business, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So one of the things I ran into early on was trying to do too many things or wear too many hats, because I really wasn't sure if pressure washing was going to catch. So I'd go out to somebody's house and they'd tell me, oh, we've got this little issue here, or can you fix this, or can you do that? And I kind of got sidetracked a lot. And within the first month or so, I decided that I was going to dumb it down to only 3 services and really try to specialize in those. And it's house washing, roof washing, and gutter cleaning for me. Those are the only 3 services I offer. Anything else, I pass it along to somebody else.
Right. And, you know, obviously they're all high ticket items
Yes.
that we all like to push, especially the roof cleaning. And we're going to talk about some of the things that you've done over the years to improve that process, make it more profitable, more efficient, and allows you to get in and out, because I know you also do a ton of jobs because, you know, you're up in the Northeast. You've got a much shorter season than we do. So if somebody calls, say, for a house wash, you're immediately going into upsell mode and you're trying to push the other services as well.
We do, yeah. So, you know, usually I'm making them the offer of whatever the service that they're asking me about. I make them the offer on that. And then, you know, they're sending me pictures and I'll say, would you also like to have your gutters cleaned? Or I can see that north-facing roof is dirty. Would you like to add that service? And I'll itemize things for them and show them, you know, house wash is X, gutter cleaning is X, roof treatment on whatever particular roof is X. And that gives them a total. And, you know, say it's whatever number, then I usually shave like 10 or 15% off of that. And I say all 3 services or both services same day is this much money. And then once I get out on their property and I service them, you know, we make a relationship. They're happy with the work we've done. We try to be very professional. I'm always on time. We communicate through the whole process. They never have any wonder about when I'm going to show up, if I'm going to show up, you know, and then we try to book them as a seasonal client. That's been the big thing for me to help me grow my business, is grabbing a hold of them. How do I get that client on the hook year after year after year? So if I come out and do a service for them, I say, listen, now that we've excavated your gutters and they're perfectly clean, it'd be a really good idea to maintain that. So, if you have me back next year, I'll give you this price. We'll come back in the spring. We'll keep gutter clean for you again. I'd really like to wash the house for you again at that time. So you're all set for the entire season. Then we come back in the fall, do gutter cleaning again, and we give them a package. And the clients that bite on that, they come back every single year. And we're like 6 and 7 years repeat on clients now. And that's been what's one of the really main catalysts to the growth of my business, because I know I have those seasonals year over year. So through the winter, like January, February, in New England, when we have no work, I'm not wondering what my March and April is going to look like. I already know that my seasonals are there. And I know that revenue is coming in March or April. And that allows me to release a little bit of funds to upgrade my equipment so that I'm better off for the next season and can perform my job better the upcoming season. I can spend the winter upgrading, building, and then hit the ground running with all this seasonal work. And then the phone just, organically rings, and we're booked right out now, almost into July. And I don't advertise. Nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah.
I don't advertise at all. There's no Facebook ads, nothing paid. There's no Google ads paid. I don't advertise in the paper. I did when I first started out, but once you start to gain traction, that referral comes in from the client you've already done work for. You've got them on the hook. You're, as QuoteIQ, CRM, very important to have in your business. Staying in front of your clients, very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you about how you quote, because you'd mentioned they send you pictures. And then I want to follow up with you about the nurturing of the customers. I mean, you addressed how you do that. What percentage of all of your customers are recurring?
I'm going to answer the last question first, because I already forgot what the first question was to ask me.
I
All
did
right,
too.
so yeah, so I would say that the majority of my business this year, especially, and this trickles into the end of the summer last year. A lot of guys were on the different forums, Facebook, in the groups, were complaining about how slow they were. No work was coming in towards the end of the year last year. And that kind of trickled into the beginning of the year this year, I think. We had a really slow start to the season in New England. It's been cold and wet. It was like 50 degrees here yesterday, in the 40s overnight. So it's not really a spring fever here this year. So that's part of the problem. And then again, I think I don't know what happened last season, but we've been struggling, for new work to come in. And I've been saying since last year that if it weren't for my repeat business, if I was only looking at the new business, I would be out of business. I would say that probably, I do 5, 6 a day normally. 3 or 4 of those at least are return clients.
Yeah.
I would say, the course of a week, we try to do 25 projects a week, anywhere between 25 and 30. And I would say that probably more than 15 of those are repeat. If I was relying on only new work coming in, and then I look at the sources of where my new work is coming from, we always mark it in our CRM. Is it a yard sign? Is it, how did I source that lead? And it's typically some type of referral. Whether
Right.
it's a sign in a yard, or it's a referral from a past client, or usually it's a combination of things. A lot of guys want to know, like, what's the magic lever to pull? And I'm always saying, well, you're kind of hitting your marketing from like 5 to 6 different angles. I post generically 2 or 3 times a week, before and afters, or something that we're doing in the business on Facebook. And I do that on my personal page. And then I share it to 4 or 5 different, community groups. And then I'm putting yard signs in everyone's property. And I got the, logoed out truck. I've got, 300 reviews on Google, and all of these things, so that when you do power washing near me or whatever it is, we come up, you see me on all these different socials. If you look at our online or digital footprint, it's huge. Like, we're listed everywhere. So I'll ask the client, like, how did you hear about me? Because I want to hit that box in my CRM. And they'll be like, well, my sister-in-law used you, and we saw some ad on Facebook, and I see your signs everywhere. And, you can't really put one finger on it. You got to be hitting it from like 6 different ways.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
all kind of gels together into what we call branding, is what I want to say. It
Yeah.
really comes down to branding your company and being seen from all different angles. And then the day they decide they want to have a service, the first thing anybody does, I know anytime I want Thai food or whatever it is, and I'm out of town, I take my phone out, I'm like, Thai food near me, or whatever it is near me. And everybody operates that way, at least the way I think. Like, I try to look at my customers like I'm the customer. What am I doing? I'm pulling out my phone and I'm typing in power washing near me. And there's, 275 reviews, the whole digital footprint. They see Facebook, they see YouTube, they see all these things. They read a few reviews, they call you. You answer the phone, sales 101. I don't care if you're on the ladder, on the roof, whatever it is, answer that phone, because if you don't, they're going to call me and I'm going to answer the phone, and then it's my client.
Exactly right. Those were some really important things. You touched on the CRM, you touched on answering the phone. And these are things that obviously are near and dear to my heart. And, obviously as the co-founder of QuoteIQ, we built QuoteIQ to do exactly those things that you're talking about. But those are the key things that help you and me and everybody that has a successful business run a successful business. And
Right.
so, I'm
So,
glad that you touched on those.
yeah. So on that, while we're on that subject, I've had a couple people ask me recently, a couple wash guys, a couple people that are close to me, if you had to do it all over again, or you were starting from zero again, what would you do differently? And I think that's a great question to ask anybody who you might look at as a mentor in the business. Personally, when I first started in the business like 6 and 7 years ago, YouTube wasn't what it is today. We didn't have the resources that the guys have today. I didn't have Mike Vadan to talk to like I have today. I think really one of the things I would do is I would get into something like what you have, specifically the outline, the directions. Like, you're going to be much more successful in anything that you do if you read the directions. You're going to have a much better outcome. You're not going to be struggling trying to figure things out. If you could get into Mike's courses and learn all about how to start, how to program your business the right way from the beginning, you'd avoid a lot of the struggles that I went through. I didn't have that when I first started. I struggled a lot. Again, if I could start over, I would cut the line and get involved in your course and, be at like year 3 in year 1.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, like you, I mean, I started, God, 23 years ago, and
Yeah.
there was a
And
couple
you had
internet
nothing,
forums,
no
nothing.
resource,
And
nothing.
so I made all the mistakes and I learned the hard way. And I encourage everybody else, don't wear that like a badge of honor, because it's not a badge of honor. Like, yeah, cut the learning curve. You can, just like you said, you can advance yourself so much by just watching YouTube videos of people that actually know what they're doing.
Right. As someone like you, 20 some odd years in the business, you're the guy I want to copy,
Yeah, well, I
you
appreciate
know?
that. And you've already hit on some of the main things that I wanted to talk about some of the marketing that you do, and you cast a wide net, which is very important. You can't just focus on one thing. You've already talked about how you nurture your existing customers. You build that lifetime value by following up with them, staying in front of them, putting them on the schedule for a year out. That's brilliant. Some of the other things that I wanted to talk about are, like, what are the key numbers that you look at in your business to help you determine the health of your business? And when you see those numbers kind of, sway a little bit, what do you do to kind of right the ship and get headed back in the right direction?
Right. So, the big thing for me is I try to win on volume. I'm not necessarily the highest price guy. I try to do the most projects I can. So that's like my big metric for the year, is how many projects that I complete for the year. And then I look at, what's the income total for the year, or what's the gross for the year. And I can look at what's my average job. And I want to see, my average ticket be right in that same range. And then I know I can control the business, income wise, by doing more jobs at that same average, and obviously my income's up. So those are I really don't track too many crazy metrics. I'm looking at volume being the win for me. And I see that as being the way to go. I know a lot of guys are trying to, do 1 or 2 projects a day, and they're trying to max them out. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But when it comes the end of the year and you've done 200 projects, maybe you've made the same money I have, but I've done 750 projects last year, and I have a database that's more than 3 times as deep as yours. So that and I don't mean yours, Mike, but
I know.
as the example, I have this much larger database to then mine, to dig into, so that when I can say, it's slow, I can set out my, text blast or reach out to my past clients. I've got thousands of clients. Someone's going to bite, even if I only get a 1% return. If I send my text blast out to 5,000 people and I get a 1% return, I got 50 new projects.
And the same goes for your reviews, right? If you
Correct.
have 3 times as many customers, projects in any given time frame, then the likelihood of more reviews is going to be significant. We all want to maximize every single customer and get the most we can as far as upselling and getting the ticket up. But those aren't every customer. Not every customer wants to go with the roof and the driveway and the everything.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's great to talk about that. And I know a lot of guys do that on YouTube. They talk about, they show these big numbers and these huge projects. And the reality is that's not every single day. So if you
Right.
can book 4 or 5 jobs every single day, then I mean, that's the way to go. I've always believed that volume is very important. And then maximizing profitability by understanding all the metrics that you need to know so you're pricing for the most profit.
That's right. And like you said, you're getting more reviews, but what you're also getting is a deeper network and database. You've got more clients referring your business out there.
Absolutely.
If I'm doing 20 or 25 per week, I've got 20 or 25 more satisfied customers that are saying my name in their circles,
Yeah.
instead of doing the one commercial job. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not how I built my business. I'm set up residential. That's what I want to do. I really like washing a house. It takes me an hour. Then I go for a little ride in the country, get a sandwich or something, wash another couple of houses. I like it. I get to see more people. I get a little break between projects. It just fits my lifestyle.
Yeah. One of the things that we just built into QuoteIQ, because there are a ton of guys like you in pressure washing that do high volume every single day. And this, we built it more so for like, lawn care guys that have got 15 jobs a day, or pest controller. We've
Yeah.
got, we service all different service industries, but we just implemented this AI route optimization tool. So you fill out your calendar for that day of which jobs you've got. And
Yep.
then you push a little button and AI, does its thing and
Massages your
schedules it.
calendar. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Route density is really the key. Um, we set that up every day to try to, if it's only a quarter mile between jobs, that's how you do 6 and 8 jobs a day. If you got to bounce around and, you're ping ponging around, it's not efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what do you think the ceiling is for a one truck operation in your area? Because obviously, if you're down in Miami, you're working 12 months out of the year.
I think the ceiling in my area is, 250-ish. I did 750 projects last year.
Yep.
That's a little out of control. I don't think anybody else is really doing that around here. I think that if you can do 400 projects a year and you're around 200,000, I think that's about what you should expect. If you're fairly successful.
Okay, so roughly, the 200-ish, ceiling for a one-man operation. At any point, do you think that you are going to want to hire somebody else, add an additional, truck to the road, or are you just going to, keep it where it's at?
So, that's another question that I get a lot. I'm an older guy. I'm 56 this year. If I was 35, I'd be want to add multiple vehicles. I'm looking at running this out for maybe another 10 years or so, and you know, treating this more as a small business. I know that I've created a job for myself more than I've created a business. But as far as like hiring somebody, I can see myself having a full-time helper. I think that makes sense. I think two men on a truck is optimal. And then the truck, if we're doing 20 or 30 projects a week, it's still very profitable for me, even to bring in a full-time helper.
When you start adding 2 to 3 guys on a truck, I see that all the time, and it's just a lot of standing around. But the way that you're set up for efficiency, you have the capability. In fact, we were talking today before we hopped on about you've been chasing water all day
Yeah,
because of
frustrating.
the equipment that you have. You're running your big tanks out. What, you got 525?
I got 550 on the truck. Yeah.
A 550 filled up every morning, and you're still chasing the water. And so tell the guys that are watching a little bit about that, the equipment that you're running that is depleting that water supply even as you double fill.
Right. So, we've got some big machines on the truck, and we try to, usually I have one of my kids. I usually have Quinn or Lauren, sometimes Patrick on the truck. So we're usually dual washing where we can, where, they're washing 2 sides of the house, I'm washing the other 2 sides, or someone's doing some concrete work, or I'm doing roof work or whatever. And we have the MoFlow on the truck this year, and that thing is absolutely ridiculous. I love that machine. I'm totally addicted to it.
So tell me about that. Who builds it, and how much are they? Where do you get them?
So it's Leon Johns. Okay, most of you guys might know who he is in the industry. He's been around for a long time. He's been one of the pioneers in power washing. He was, big AR-45 guy, big roof washing guy for a long time. And he's developed this machine that's an upstreaming machine. It runs on a GX390. It's got a U-door pump that's all stainless, and it pulls through a proportioner. So you're upstreaming through a power washer, and it puts out 14 gallons a minute. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's about 600, 700 PSI, which coupled with that volume of water is the most ridiculous thing you've ever washed with. It outshines, I believe, anything on the market right now as far as like its capabilities. The problem with it is, if there's a problem, is for guys like me who have limited water supplies. It drinks a lot of water real fast.
Right.
You can throttle it down so it drinks less. You can throttle it down like for roof washing, which I use it for roof washing exclusively currently. And when you throttle the machine down, it'll pull about 6 gallons a minute, and it still shoots about 50 feet, even throttled all the way down. You throttle it up, anywhere in between there, you can, shoot 70 feet, no problem. And it's running through a proportioner. So you can control, whatever degree of sauce you want to put on. You can pull straight SH if you need to. It's
That's wild.
nuts. It's absolutely nuts. You'd love it, Mike. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um,
that does
and
sound.
you can buy them through Southern Style Trailers. That's Leon's business.
How much
Uh,
how much are those things running? Do you know?
the machine itself with the pump is like 6,500.
Okay.
All right. And then you need to get a proportioning system with remote control, and Leon sells all that.
Right.
Plumbing kit, then you're going to want to have ag hose and a hose reel. And so, I mean, it adds up, but these machines pay for themselves over and over and over. I joke about my 8 gallon per minute machine. I paid like $5,000 for that thing. We've been running it for 3 years straight. That thing's made me $500,000. It's ridiculous. So to go buy one of these machines, it's not, you can't look at it like, oh, and that's again where I talk about the seasonal agreement thing. Like having that money coming in is what has allowed me to buy the machines that I need to be more efficient year over year over year. The MoFlow we got in the fall last year, been really, really good to me. Great service from Leon.
That's
But,
awesome. What kind had there been any like issues? I know, we run AR-45s currently. Love them. High volume, nothing like what you're talking about. But still, you're able to go high level. Hit
oh yeah,
3, 4
oh yeah,
stories. Everything that I've experienced has had some sort of issues, whether it's the 12 volt, the 24 volt, the ARs. We've not had any problems with the ARs because everybody used to say, oh, they're trash. And, I think if you take care of them, they're going to do fine.
right.
They are a little bit more expensive than the 12 volts,
Oh
but
yeah. But they're not even in the same thing. Like a
no.
12 volt, and it's not even the same. Somebody sent me an old video the other day. I was watching one of my old videos, and I'm washing a roof with a 12 volt, and I was like, oh my God. Like it's not even the same world that we're in today. An AR-45 is just ridiculous. The P40 is ridiculous. Those are fantastic machines. They put out 8, 10 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
You can roof wash with those things. You can house wash with them. They're super versatile. The MoFlow just is a level up from that. It's more reliable, higher volume, more options, higher PSI. That's really the big thing. Like, I don't know what you're getting out of the AR, but maybe 200, but when you've got third story gutters and you're trying to knock lichen off of them, when you're hitting it at 600 PSI with 12 gallons a minute, that's a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
You could just fly with the machine. And so far I've been running it since December. I probably run it through 350 houses now.
Okay.
And I've had zero problems with it at all.
Well, that's great, and a true testament to what they're building down there.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned that you had just got with the county water department to
Yes.
help alleviate that issue, and it blew my mind when you said you were able to fill up your tank 550 gallons in 5 minutes.
5 minutes. It's ridiculous.
So Joe, I really appreciate you spending time with us today, and I know that the guys watching got a lot of value from this. What one piece of advice would you offer to anybody watching this that is either looking to get in or looking to build their business?
I would say one of the first things you want to do is find a mentor in the business, and someone that will kind of take you under their wing, that has experience and that could share some of their ups and downs with you and how to get moving. I think that's very important. And also make friends with the local guys in your business. I think that's really important. That's one of the first things I did. Was I reached out to a few of the guys in the area. We became friendly. We collaborate. It's the way to grow. These people don't need to be your competition. You don't need to cut each other apart. You need to collaborate with them so that you're all on the same page, and you're going to have a much better start to your business, having some people to rely on in your community.
Well, I love that. And again, like I said, we appreciate you, Joe. Everybody go check out Joe's channel. It's called Powerful Improvements. Go support him, like his channel, subscribe to his channel. And Joe, thanks again.
Of course, Mike. Thank you.